Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome to my channel. My name is Joanna. If this is your first time here, I welcome you. I hope you stay. I hope you find whatever wants to be channeled through me as interesting or maybe even inspirational. At the end of the day, my job is to help you remember who you are. And in order for me to do that with you, I have to remember who I am. And in order for me to remember who I am, I have to be open to the idea that I am part of everything that is, as you are. And it also forces me to realize that the way I see myself is not how, quote unquote, God sees me. Because God, whatever the name you want to use, sees me as an idea, an inspiration, and I see myself as a limitation. So it seems logical that God and I don't see eye to eye in how I see myself versus how God sees me and you. In other words, we are at odds with each other. I am at odds with the part that has created me and you. And if I am at odds with all of that, I will likely not be open to receiving what all of that has to give me. I will simply block myself. But in order to understand why I'm blocking myself, why would I block myself? I mean, who doesn't want to be buddies with God? In order for me to deny that ability, which I have and you have and everyone else has as well, I have to sell myself a bill of goods that tells me I am not this, I am not that, and therefore how could I be possibly buddies with God? In other words, my inner conflict, my mental mechanism, makes me believe that I am less than. And as a consequence of believing that, I live in this so-called illusion. The illusion of being separate from God, source, whatever name you want to give it. If you want to call it an elephant, so be it. And lately what's been happening, and by the way, for those of you who are returning, thank you so much for being here. I'm just partly channeling right now. And what has been happening lately, and I have come to realize as Joanna that part of my job, if you will, is to share my experiences with others. Why? Because likely my experience is going to be helpful or useful to you in your own journey of your own self-discovery as being part of God. Therefore, if I have no idea how to do it, I am not going to be able to help you. In other words, I need to help myself first in order to realize where I stand and what is my relationship with God before I can make any adjustments to it. And for some reason, And by the way, when I speak about me, I am likely speaking also about you, because I am sure many of us are having the same experience in various different packages, if you will. So the notion of not enoughness keeps coming up. Judgment's enoughness. And the whole idea of not being enough is becoming to me, as I wake up more and more, the very idea of not enoughness is really absurd to me. I'm starting to realize how absurd it is for us to feel less than. Less than what? It's when I'm in this frequency, as I am in this frequency right now, it literally baffles me that we identify ourselves as not being enough. It's crazy to me. It's crazy. Here's why. You and I and everything that exists is part of this vastness. God, consciousness itself. And it contains within it everything that is and isn't all at once. It's the experience and the experiencer. And we are all part of that. We're all part of everything. So if we talk about the idea of there being everything, the idea of not enoughness doesn't exist, because everything is. There is not enough. It doesn't exist. That's where we come from, and that's who we are. Yet we insist on believing that we are less than, or we are made to feel less than. And I find it very peculiar, especially now. I'm hearing them say to me, tell them why you find it peculiar. Well, because if we believe that we are less than, then it feels to me like what we are saying is that we are less than that which has created us. But you and I and everything that exists is part of what has created us. So there is no separation. There is no such thing as not being enough. We are part of everything. And everything is consciousness, God, whatever you want to call it. So when we deem ourselves as not enough, or when we adopt the idea that we are somehow not enough, we are essentially limiting ourselves. There's just no way around it. That's what it's for. Okay? And we're at the time where we are beginning to recognize certain traits that we have been used to, but these traits now feel very heavy, and it's like a baggage that wants to be dropped. Perhaps this is one of the baggages we would like to drop. And one of the baggages being the idea of not enoughness. Here's why. When you realize that you are enough, everything becomes possible. Look at a baby who's learning how to crawl and experience his or her life. They're just hungry for exploration. They just want to explore. They have no good, bad. It doesn't exist to them until they begin to hear it, see it. Other people saying to them, not this, not that, you can't do this. Until that happens, which is pretty quickly after birth, we are just open vessels to creating whatever it is that we want. And the older we get, the more we become, the less we are participating with that idea that we are here just to create. And instead, we move away from being conscious, creative creators to becoming very mind-obsessed thinkers. Now, thought in and of itself is not bad. However, thought that limits you is not so great. And there's no judgment at all. But a limiting thought limits your experience. And the idea of not being enough is based on limited thinking. How could you possibly be not enough? It's absurd. You are part of all that is. Just because you don't see yourself that way does not mean that you are not part of the experience. You're just not conscious of it in this moment, at this time. That's what higher consciousness is all about. It's about the understanding that we are all part of one. We're all this gigantic unit working together. And we are all connected. We're all connected by all these vibrations. And the underlying vibration is, how it's shown to me, is the idea of pure love. You are pure love in disguise. You chose to disguise yourself. You chose to say to yourself, hey, let me have an experience and see how much I can limit myself. Now, of course, coming from that perspective and living a limited life, that's an interesting experience, being excited about experiencing some limitations. It's an experience one chooses to have, just because they want to experience limitations. However, if there is no choice implied, if it's simply something that we are used to doing, then it doesn't even enter the conscious awareness that we can, at any moment, change that. We can change how we feel about ourselves by looking at the limiting thoughts we are having and seeing how these limited thoughts limit our experience. And then from that perspective, we can choose. And this is a choice that not everyone is aware of having. And although everyone has this choice, not everyone is conscious of having this choice. They simply don't know any better or any different. Not that it's good or bad. They simply are having their own unique experience. If you choose to remember who you are, and choice is a good word for it. If you choose to remember who you are, your experience in life will become, I want to say the words, unstoppable. As if you won't be able to wait to get enough of life. It's a different feel. On the other hand, if we don't believe in ourselves, which is not believing with the creator that created us because we are part of it, we will limit our experience. Are you a limited being? No, you have some limitations right now, but you're not a limited being. In fact, You are so unlimited, you are choosing to create your own limitations for the purpose of having this human experience. That's how unlimited you are. Perhaps the logical mind is trying to figure that out right now. Don't be afraid of being yourself. But what does it mean to be yourself? What does it mean to be yourself? Have you ever asked yourself this question? What does it mean to me to be myself? What does that mean? And see what answer comes up. I haven't asked myself that question lately, but just asking that question, what does it mean to you to be yourself? What does it mean to me to be myself? If I ask myself, Joanna, ask myself, what does it mean to me to be myself? For me, it's to be absolutely part of everything, but not identifying myself with anything in particular all at once. To be myself is to choose my experience, be conscious of choosing my experience, and then expressing myself in various different ways without putting limitations on myself and on others. Because we do that all the time. When we say to us, oh no, this person can't do this, we're just limiting them. Do we really know if they can't do something? I mean, sometimes it's obvious, but a lot of the time we don't. You limit yourself when you say to yourself, oh no, I can't do that. Maybe some things you can't really do that because gravity, whatever. But for the most part, when we say, no, I can't do that, what we are really saying is, I choose not to do that. I don't want to do that. And we have our reason. It's not that we can't. We absolutely can, and sometimes we shouldn't, and sometimes we should. Notice how many times you say, I can't, to yourself. I can't be this, I can't be that. I can't make this much money. I can never meet Mr. Right or Mr. Wrong. By saying you can't, you are saying, I am not willing to. I'm choosing not to. Change the way you think about yourself, and another for that matter. Perhaps saying you can't means that you believe that you are somehow not capable. But how do you know if you're capable of something or not unless you try it? How do you know? Again, there are some obvious things, like you wouldn't lift a 2-ton truck, okay? So we're not talking about these things. But how many times do we say, oh my God, I can't do that. I would never be able to do that. Or I'm not supposed to. Oftentimes, it's us making a choice not to do something. And we have our own reasons. For example, are you being yourself today, as an example? If yes, what does that mean to you? Is being yourself, does it feel like you are limited, unlimited? What does it feel like to be yourself? Not only that, do you feel good being yourself? And if you are not being yourself, ask the question, why? Why am I not being myself? But first and foremost, you want to ask yourself, what is myself? Who is this self of mine? Believe it or not, who you are is largely a product of your imagination. You are right now imagining yourself be something you are not. You are imagining yourself being a separated person from all that is. Yet, you are not separate. Not at all. You can't be a part of consciousness. That's all there is. Consciousness itself is all there is. Some call it God. I wrote the question, or I wrote the phrase, I am not enough, and then I channeled a few pages. I'd like to read this to you. I feel like it's very important. I may struggle a little bit because when I channel write, it's sometimes very illegible. I can't read it, but for the most part, I think we should be okay. So after writing the statement, I'm not enough, a voice came through, an energy came through, and this is what they said. Where we come from, and you are the experiencer and the experience both at the same time. You realize all possibilities versus denying yourself based on some mental calculation that constantly thinks in terms of, am I enough? Will I ever be enough? Will someone love me for me? And it just talks about it being a very outdated model of measuring experiences. In other words, the energy that spoke through me, energies, comes from the place where they're both experiencing and being the experiencer at the same time. And when I asked, what does that really mean? What comes to me right away, it's present. The place where this being comes from is a place of much greater presence, being with the I am. Okay? And they see themselves as, or they realize that they are all possibilities. And then they don't live in terms of creating limitations for themselves. I'm hearing they have outlived that model. So whatever this energy, powerful energy was, its way of living is very different than ours. Their communications, I'm going to say it differently. They're not in denial of God or consciousness. They're very aware of what consciousness is based on their understanding. They're humorous about it. They have humor about it. I'm hearing we joke about consciousness all the time. So they're not always serious. They're funny. They have a good time and they laugh. But they don't see themselves critically as like we do. Okay, so there is an obvious difference in vibration. Here it goes further. There's no black or white where we come from. We all believe in the same things, but we all have our own individual uniqueness, and all of our unique perspective is accepted. Here's where it was funny. We hold no unity churches because we are already whole without the church. Though we may want to have a temporary amnesia and experience the discomfort of being human in order to believe that church equals God, church is an interpretation of a certain God. It's one you are used to in your travels. You understand that church or some form of church is the authority of the real God they believe in. Yet what they believe, it isn't real either. It is all compilation of what God is supposed to look like. Do you want to see the real God? Quotation mark. Look in the nature. This is what God is. It's nature. Its very thing that lives everywhere and in everything. It has no boundaries. It loves the church, or as much as those who deny church, and everyone in between. And that's because to God, there is no separation. What you deem as God is you. You are the very essence of God itself, the very thing that has created you. And if that wasn't real enough, then I don't know what is. There is nothing more real than nature. It has no lies. It carries no agenda. It's at peace most of the time. Nature exists because it is. Nature is very comforting and vast. It gives you a peace of mind. And that's because to experience nature, you have to become one, the experiencer and the experience. Then you have the meaning of real in its embodied form. When you embody nature, you are essentially aligning with God. And that's because nature does not fight God. Nature knows it is part of God's experience, and she's a big part of it. She doesn't deny herself the nature of who she is. She simply knows she's one with God. I thought that was beautiful. Certainly quite powerful. And in essence, what this is to me saying is, when you are one with nature, you begin to see how nature is also a part of you. You begin this interesting relationship. The part of you that connects with nature is also the same part of you that connects with consciousness, God. So in short, being with nature helps us experience God. Okay. When was the last time you went out, laid on the grass, closed your eyes, and allowed Mother Nature to support you? When was the last time you just laid down on grass, on ground, closed your eyes, and all you did was just felt your body? When was the last time you became one with nature? Nature nurtures you. Nature nurtures you and I. When we are not in nature, looks like we are not nurturing myself nearly as much as we could. Now here's something interesting. We couldn't possibly survive without nature. We couldn't. We can't live on metal cups, which is derived from nature, by the way, its components, its chemical structure. In other words, nature is in full support of everything that we do every day, every moment of our lives. Yet how many of us think of nature in those terms? Without nature, we cannot survive. It's kind of sitting here for me. It's like, wow, that's big. What do I do with it? What do I do with this? The question is, what do I want to do with it? I just heard commune with nature. Be more in nature. See yourself being more part of nature. See yourself being more part of the one. Nature is part of one. Become more like yourself, whatever that means to you. Be good to yourself. Be good to Mother Nature. Be kind to one another as you would want someone to be kind to you. We forget that when we are not being kind to other people, we are essentially not being kind to ourselves, because it comes back like a boomerang, because we're all connected. We're just disconnected from the feeling of this connection that we have, that we don't feel it or we don't see it. When we see other people angry, why do we act out angry? Why do we do that? What are we accomplishing by being angry at each other? Are we healing wounds, or are we inflicting more pain? If we are inflicting more pain, then we will experience painful experiences. On the other hand, if we're being more loving to each other, we will experience more loving lives. There's just no way around it. There's just no way around it. You are powerful enough to have anything you want. But you first have to believe that what you want can become real. If you do not believe that it cannot become real, then essentially what you are saying is you don't believe in you. Because you are the creator of your real. You're the creator, you're the one. So if you don't believe that you can create something, what you are saying is, I don't believe myself as being a creator. And oh boy, you are a creator. You're the one. The creator has created you to be your own unique creator of life. You have your own individual significance. You are all created by light with light. There's nothing different about you as far as Source is concerned. You are part of Source, and Source is part of you. If you were to see yourself differently from now on, let's encourage a more positive frame of mind, a more positive view you have of yourself. If every single person chose today to let go of one limitation, just one limitation, our entire world would look different. That is what's coming through. Also, your experience is not yours alone. Your experience is also other people's experience or experiences. So when we hold ourselves back from experiencing, we are naturally almost like denying other people's experiences, because everything we do affects other people. So you holding yourself back will affect another person. It's all energetic. Okay. Imagine this. If you are with someone whose confidence is very shaky and your confidence was shaky too, do you think your non-confidence would help the other person's non-confidence be less or more? More. They would feel even less confident by you being not confident. That is not to say that we are responsible for other people's experiences. We can only be responsible for our own experiences, for how we choose to experience our experiences, how we choose to perceive our experiences. We cannot make that choice for somebody else, but we can certainly make that choice for ourselves. When you see yourself as not enough, you are robbing yourself of opportunities and possibilities, of potentials. You are saying no to your own inner creator. There are many people, in my experience, who appear very confident, very optimistic. But when you start to uncover all the layers of pain, you realize that many of those people, regardless of how confident they appear on the outside, have a fear of not being loved. And that's because they don't feel that they're enough. They don't feel they're worthy. And I believe that this is one of, if not the most, then one of the most biggest pain as humanity, the idea of undeservingness. It's crazy how we humans believe in all the things that we do. And what's more interesting is we very readily believe in some things, but we won't believe in other. We will much more readily insist on being small rather than believing that we are part of this bigness. That's peculiar. Why do we do that? Conditioning, nothing else. Nothing more, conditioning. You have conditioned to be believed. You have been conditioned to believe that you are not enough and you are not worthy. And a person who feels not enough and not worthy is going to fear not being loved. They're going to fear not being loved. At the very basis of a human wound is the fear of not being loved. Yet, you are loved all the time. In fact, you're in it every day. Without universal love, you wouldn't exist. There would be no you. You just don't remember. The whole idea of unworthiness is almost laughable coming from where you come from. Not that it's being laughed at, because it is very real. But it can only be real when we are seeing it from the point of descension. We have descended into a low vibrating space. The moment we let go of this idea of unworthiness, the more we will open up to the possibility of what can be. Not what can't be, what can be. And we will begin to thrive more. We will begin to assume more responsibility for our lives rather than fearing somehow that life is supposed to be this way or that way, or you should be this or that. You have no idea who you're supposed to be. That's because you're not supposed to be anybody. You're not supposed to be just anybody. You're supposed to be you. You're exactly who you need to be in this moment at this time based on whatever your soul has in plan for itself. There's nothing wrong with you. There never was, there never will be. There's no such thing. Your own limitations and limitations of other people who have put them on you will deem you less than, unworthy, whatever. But that's your limitations. That's not you. Your limitation is not you. Or did you forget about it? Did you perhaps think that you are the limitation? No. Remember, there's no limit to you. You're immense. You're just pretending to be limited for a moment to have this unique, physical, limited experience. In fact, you were rejoicing when you found out you're coming down again. You couldn't wait to get into your character. That you don't remember. And because you don't remember that, you believe that some things are bad. They're bad for you. I shouldn't do this. I shouldn't do that. There's no such thing. Of course, we have the moral system. We have the guidance. We have laws because, let's face it, we humans need guidance. Otherwise, we would get lost. And that would be very chaotic. But this is what I heard. But you can't get lost if there is no place that you are going. You're not supposed to go anywhere. You're not going anywhere. You're not here to go anywhere, to be anything. You are here just to experience. You're here to experience, to be the experience and the experiencer, to be in the moment. That's why you're here. But are all the illusions we've put on ourselves in terms of giving ourselves parameters, what life is, what life isn't, what I should do, what shouldn't I do? It's all part of the experience, but it's not the experience. It's part of your experience. You're the experience. You are the experience. And the experience is you. Okay? You're all that. And I'm saying today, okay, what do I do with that information? And I heard, simply tell them that everything is possible. Stop putting limits on yourself. Stop pretending to be something you are not. Why would that be important? When you put on a mask and you pretend to be something you're not, you are at odds with yourself. You are creating resistance to you. You are saying no to some part of you. You are limiting yourself. You are keeping yourself back. For whatever reason, for whatever reason, you have your reason. But if you deal with all those reasons why you put on a mask, why you are hiding, if you deal with those and then take off your mask, and then you realize, oh my God, anything is possible. How amazing would that be? Yet it's all in your hands right now. You just have to stop believing what you have been believing in limited ways and choose to believe something different. Make the choice right now. Make the choice to be more loving to yourself, for starters. and see what happens. Put that thought in your mind. I will be more kind and more loving towards myself. And perhaps in order for you to do that, you first have to see about yourself how you are not being kind, how you are not being loving. How do you know if you're not being kind or loving to yourself? You know. You can feel it. Sometimes you feel it so much, you suppress it. You want to numb it. Nothing good happens when we numb something. All we're doing is we are temporarily masking the pain. We're not dealing with whatever the problem is. It's the problem that needs the solution, not the pain from the problem. The moment you deal with the problem, there's no pain. I also heard, be solution oriented. How can I solve this? How can I solve it? Not what am I supposed to do with it? How can I solve it? Not can I get rid of it? How can I solve it? Depends what you want from it when you solve it. It depends what you're trying to figure out, what you're trying to create. I'm being asked to say there's no such thing as unsolvable problems. There's no such thing as unsolvable problems. Some are very difficult to solve, but that's what I'm hearing. I don't know if that's true. Sounds reasonable. I'm sure on a higher level, there's no such thing as not an unsolvable problem. But if we look at it from 3D perspective, there's many problems that seem to be unsolvable. Why are you here right now? Ask yourself this question. Why am I here right now? What am I doing? What am I doing with my life? Perhaps you will ask the question, what am I supposed to be doing? Always remember, you're not supposed to do anything. You're not supposed to be anything. Okay? Now, of course, within a society, there's a whole bunch of supposed to. The trick, if you will, is to figure out how to live within that paradox. Okay? And that's not always easy. That's why we're saying have fun. When things are difficult, but you throw in some fun, things all of a sudden get easier. I'll buy that. It's introducing of lighter frequency, which can often lift the challenge that you're dealing with and not make it be so heavy, and come up with different solutions. I can accept that. What is important for us humans to do right now? To reclaim our innocence. When I asked, what does that mean? Help me understand what that means. I didn't go to Wikipedia to ask for the meaning. I just wanted to feel it from my source. And the feeling I got was basically trusting that life is to be experienced and not having any hidden agendas other than desire to experience, like a child who hasn't been limited yet. We all have that child within us, by the way, every single being. In my experience, vast majority of people I work with are at odds with their inner child. They're at odds with their innocence. They're at a distance with their innocence. And it obviously happens through life. The problem is that when we are at odds with ourselves, we cannot truly, really be happy. And something is always not enough. When we're at odds with ourselves, there's always something that feels like it's not enough. Remember what I read at the very beginning. There's no such thing as not enough. It's ridiculous. What would you do if you had your innocence back? This is the question they asked me to ask you. What would you do differently if you had your innocence back? If you didn't have all the trauma, drama, difficult situations, challenges, if you didn't have those, can you imagine how would your life be different? Perhaps you will realize that you wouldn't want anything to be different, which is what I realized. I wouldn't want anything to be different. If it was different, I wouldn't be who I am right now. If I was not who I am right now, I wouldn't be in a position to do what I'm doing right now. And this flow is what I absolutely love to do. There would be no me in a way, in this form. There would be somebody different. I am okay with my past. I still have some tweaks to do, but I've accepted my past. I am part of my past, but I choose to not recreate my past over and over and over and over. So every moment of every day, as much as I can be conscious, I'm choosing. I'm not being mindless. I'm not doing things based on how I used to do mindlessly. I'm choosing. I'm conscious of my energy. I'm conscious of how I feel. I become aware of my center. I become the observer. It's a conscious effort. Conscious effort. And sometimes it's a lot. And sometimes I feel like I'm losing my mind. And sometimes I wonder, is this real? But then I come back to this space again. What's real? If you've lost your way, if you are quote unquote out of practice being at one with yourself, then choose a practice. Give yourself a practice where you will become one with yourself again. Learn how to love yourself through some sort of spiritual practices. Give of yourself to yourself. Be more loving in who you are being to yourself and to the world. That's how you get back to loving yourself. And always remember, when you begin to remember who you are, you begin to remember where you come from. You begin to also remember that consciousness and you are not apart. You're one. This shifts your frequency and your mental thinking. You become more one with the universe, more so than one separate from the universe. Your entire vibration changes. You become essentially a higher frequency. And none of this is for good or bad. You don't have to. We're in this interesting space right now. At least that's what I feel. Where each person has the opportunity to consciously choose to live their life. But in order to take advantage of this opportunity, each person has to become more conscious. They have to become conscious of their hidden agendas, how they keep themselves down. They have to become more aware of their thinking, more conscious of their current beliefs, haves, not haves, more conscious of their insecurities, more conscious of whatever is not serving them. It is only then, with awareness, that they can participate in making a different choice. Otherwise, it's not possible. I just heard to choose wisely means to choose from your wisdom, not necessarily from your ego. Now, wisdom will be expressed through ego, but it will not be ego. It'd be wisdom. Be okay with being you. If you are not supposed to be you, you wouldn't be you. It's that simple. And if you're saying to yourself, I'm not supposed to be this person, then ask yourself, then who are you supposed to be? And then be that person. Be the person you believe you're supposed to be. And see if you like it. See if it serves you. See if you enjoy it. There's no judgment. But the supposed to creates a certain limitation. Okay? Again, if you choose to limit yourself, that's very different than limiting yourself without being conscious about it. Choose as much as you want. Choose to believe that you are less than. Make it a choice. Don't make it something that is a given. Okay? Black and white polarity. It's not about black and white. It's not about good or bad. It's not about wet or dry. It's about both. We are in a process of reunification. To experience the process of merging of opposites, of polarity. It is about togetherness versus separateness. It is about the heart that loves, not the mind that divides. Everything is possible and everything is complete. You are not yourself unless you believe who you really are. If you believe you are other than who you really are, which is a beautiful, divine being, then you are not being yourself. You are practicing being somebody else. And that's okay. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Again, are you choosing consciously or is it a given? Because if you're choosing consciously, my hat's off to you. More power to you, in fact. But if it feels like it's happening to you, you have to give yourself more awareness in terms of what you think and how you think. Okay? And last but not least, don't resist the process of change. Okay? We are all in between two worlds. Resisting the change is not going to help. It's only going to make things harder. How do you know if you're resisting something? Again, you know it, you feel it. You just have to ask yourself, what is the resistance to? What am I resisting? What am I choosing to not accept, perhaps? And why am I making that choice? By me choosing to not accept something, how will that serve me? Those are all very important questions that oftentimes reveal really important answers. That's how you really begin to know yourself. I think there's another thing I wanted to read to you. This was all about the self-discovery. People don't find out who they are by being told. They find out through self-discovery. Anything that is placed on you tends to become part of your identity, but that is not who you are at all. It is only how you learned to identify yourself as. The process of self-discovery involves looking at those things that make up your identity and ask yourself, is it mine or does it belong somewhere else? It is not until you realize that you are none of those things that the journey of self-discovery begins. Enjoy the journey, loved one. That's all I have for you. I hope this was helpful. If you would like to have the 2023 Zodiac predictions, there's a line down below or link down below. If you would like to work with me and my team, that link is also down below. Thank you so much, and I wish you a wonderful rest of the week. Take care. Bye-bye.